king had an insatiable desire for collecting crowns. To satisfy this craving, Pete began pillaging and plundering everywhere. He used all sorts of despicable means to snatch crowns. First, Pete went to Mouse Kingdom. The Mouse King was just about to greet Pete when Pete mercilessly ripped off the Mouse King's skull and then wore his crown on his own head. After the Mouse King's demise, his subjects were left homeless. They began to flock to Pete's kingdom for refuge. Seeing the pleading mouse subjects under the city walls, Pete set a mousetrap with cheese on top, intending to exterminate them. Meanwhile, the Pumpkin Kingdom's king had just awakened. As he stretched lazily, Pete grabbed him and smashed him to pieces. Thus, Pete obtained another crown. However, not long after, the pumpkin crown withered, and from it emerged a Fly King. Pete ruthlessly killed the Fly King as well and wore its tiny crown as a ring. On another front, the Snake Kingdom's king had just awoken from his slumber when Pete swiftly dispatched him with a blade. Meanwhile, the number of refugees beneath Pete's castle kept growing. In his quest for more crowns, Pete even turned his attention to the mountain god. He converted his castle into a war machine and launched an attack on the mountain god. No matter how Pete attacked, it had no effect whatsoever on the mountain god. So, he launched himself into the mountain god's crown. Unexpectedly, the crown world was filled with flowers, and the strong pollen intensified his desires. Possessed, he lifted the knife and directly cut off his own fingers. Due to excessive bleeding, Pete died inside the crown, until he reached a room filled with kings he had once killed in his quest for crowns. The Grim Reaper pointed to a seat for him, but Pete had his eyes on the Grim Reaper's crown. Climbing onto the dining table, Pete attempted to snatch the Grim Reaper's crown, but with a mere gesture, the Grim Reaper sent him back to his original position. Undeterred, Pete launched attack after attack, but the Grim Reaper's patience wore thin. He threw Pete back into his seat. Realizing he couldn't defeat the Grim Reaper, Pete resorted to making a crown out of tissue, only for the Grim Reaper to snatch it away. Pete screamed in madness, annoying the Grim Reaper, who reluctantly gave him his own crown. With the crown in hand, Pete fled the room and leaped into the endless void, where he would remain with the crown forever.